Hi everyone, welcome back to Crochet Rocks. Tracy here, and in this tutorial I'm going to show you how to make this super cute newborn baby mitten. It's got a granny stitch top, and I've made this to go with the granny stitch newborn baby beanie that I've just done a tutorial for. So this is going to match with that. I've used a DK weight yarn, which is not the thickest DK. This is a Peter Pan baby yarn. Excuse me. And if you want to find where you can get all of the materials that I've used today, there are links in the description box below. So while I clear everything away and get started on this, if you haven't already, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell. I'll come back to you in a second. Okay, so I'm using a 4mm crochet hook and this DK weight, but it's quite a fine one. So I'm going to start with a magic loop, and if you don't like the magic loop, you can chain 2 and work into the first chain, but mine is ever so easy. I leave a nice long tail for sewing it in, but I just make a loop, put in my hook, bring the yarn through and make 1 chain, and you've done the magic loop. It's as simple as that. Okay, so in this ring I'm going to put a total of 12 UK treble crochets, which are double crochets in the US, but my first stitch will be a stacked, in the UK a stacked DK, in the US a stacked single. And by inserting your hook into the ring and pulling up a loop, you can then yarn over and pull through both of those. Now in this vertical post here, I just insert my, oops daisy, take the hook with you. Okay, so I insert my hook into this vertical post here, yarn over and pull up a loop, 2 on my hook again, yarn over and pull through both. So that brings me up to the level of my UK treble, and it's fatter than a 2 chain. But if you'd rather do the chain, I'd understand. So as well as this one, I'm going to put 11 into this ring, and they are just very simple UK treble, US double crochets. And I'm going to pause the video while I do this, because if I'm counting, I'm sure I should put you off, and it's boring to watch me just keep doing this. So I'll pause it and I'll catch up with you once I've done my very last stitch. That means 11 of these plus that one at the beginning will be 12. Okay, so I finished my last one, and now I'm just going to pull on this a little bit. It doesn't have to be completely closed at this stage, just bring it together. Now the top 2 loops are my top of my stitch, so I'm going to pop my hook in and do a slip stitch to join. Okay, now I can pull it a little bit tighter if I want to. Okay, now I'm going to do a half treble, which is a UK term, and a half double in the US. And to do that, I'm going to do 1 chain and pull it right low, cinch it right down, because I don't want that to be deceived into thinking that's a stitch. So I don't want this loop on the hook to be tight, but I'm going to do 2 UK half trebles or US half doubles. I think I've split my yarn there. I'll start again. I'm going to go back. I don't like it when it splits. Okay, so here we go. It's a bit difficult now. I've split it. Never mind. Okay, do my chain, pull it right down, and here we go. That's better. This yarn doesn't split too often, but I'm not used to using these crochet hooks. I usually use a tulip, but I wanted to use this one as it was nice and handy. So I'm going to do 2 in every single stitch all the way around, and I'm going to pause it again because that's boring to watch. 2 in every single one. So at the end of this you will have 24. I will catch up with you once I get back to the start again. Okay, so I'm pulling my center a bit tighter because it was a little loose, and I've done my 24, and this here is the top of my stitch, so I'm going to just slip stitch into that one and close my ring. So that's as far as we're going to go with increasing. So I'm going to, sorry about that, bashing my equipment. I'm just going to do one in each stitch all the way around in this next round. So no more increase, just one UK half treble, US half double in every single one of our stitches all the way around. So again, we will have 24 stitches at the end of this round. Again, that would be boring to watch me, and so I'm going to pause the video and I will catch up with you when I get back to the start again. Right now, so I've got all the way around and you can see it's starting to cup, which is exactly what we want it to do, because we've done the top part here. We're now starting on this part around here. And although it does go rounded, it's not, there is not any more increasing or shaping. So I'm just going to slip stitch into my first one and close my ring. And I'm going to pop that into the right way because that's the wrong side. Okay, so I'm going to chain one, pull it right low, and I'm going to carry on doing one in each stitch all the way around. And this is the same now for the next, let's see, how many have we got? 1, 2, 3. This is our fourth round. We want a total of, let's have a count. I think it's 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We want a total of 9 rounds altogether from this start. So I'm going to carry on now and make my 9 rounds, and they're all the same. So I won't come back to you in the meantime. I'll just carry on now until I've done my 9, and I'll pause the video and come back to you once you've done that. Just a little note about the yarn. This Peter Pan is extremely, really willowy soft baby yarn, and although this is quite a tight pattern, it still feels lovely and soft. You could make this bigger or smaller. If you wanted to make it smaller, you could use a 4-ply if you were making it for a preemie baby, or if you wanted to make it bigger, likewise you could up the hook size to a 4.5 and use a DK, or you could even go up a little bit more and use a 4-way Aran yarn and then a 5mm crochet hook or more. So I'm going to pause it then after that little note on sizing, and I'll catch up with you at the end of my 9 rounds. Okay, so I've got my 9 rounds and this is what it's looking like. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to make this part here where the tie goes. Now, when it comes to the tie, you can make another round of UK half trebles, US half doubles, and weave in and out of another row. So say the 10th row, and you could weave your tie in and out. But if you wanted to maybe not have a crocheted tie or something a little bigger like a ribbon, that really would be difficult to get in. Plus, you know, some people like to have a different kind of, you know, rather than have the same stitch. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cinch my chain down again, and I'm going to do my first stitch in there exactly the same, a UK half treble or a half double US, and I'm going to chain one, I'm going to skip one and do one in the next stitch, chain one, skip one and do one in the next stitch. Skip one. I'm going to do that all the way around until I get back to the start again. Nice and simple. If you didn't want to do this, you could also do a UK treble, which is a double crochet in the US, a little bit of a taller stitch, but make one in each. That would be easier to weave your tie or ribbon through if you didn't want to have these spaces. It's really just a personal preference thing. So I might as well stay with you because I'm not far from the, well, I suppose I'm halfway around. In case it's a little boring, then I will pause it and I'll catch up with you when I get back to the beginning again. Okay, so now I'm going to just chain one and slip stitch into my first stitch. It's going to be hard to get into. Looks a little tight. Come on, get in. There we are. Okay. So this is now my granny stitch round. Okay, so the first one, I'm just going to insert my hook where I've just slip stitched into, and I'm going to do the same stack stitch that I did at the beginning, or you can chain two if you really don't want to do this. And then in the same stitch I'm going to make another, and then I'm going to skip two, but I'm going to skip this one and this one. So in the post I'm going to make 3 stitches. Didn't really want to go in the post, did it? I'm in. I did try to see if how it would look if I just went into every single space, every single gap, and it doesn't look right at all. It's just too bunched up. Okay, so in the post, skip 1, skip 2, and in the third one I'm going to make 3. This is where I wish I hadn't made this row quite so tight. Now, I did toy with the idea of doing a whole row of UK double crochet, which are singles in the US, which would make this easier, but I didn't want to make these mittens too tall. Skip 1 in the next post. So I'm going to do that all the way around. This is a fiddly round. It's only because you're trying to get into every one of those stitches all the way around. So I'm going to pause it then. This is how it's looking. And you want those nice spaces between. If you're just going into these, there are no spaces. It doesn't look the same at all. Okay, so I'm going to pause it then and I'm going to carry on. And when I get back to the start, I will catch up with you then. Okay, so I've made it all the way around and I only did 2 in my first stitch because I found 3 made it a little out of shape. So I'm going to finish it off with my last one. It does look a little unusual at the minute, but then you slip stitch into your first stitch and it just looks like all the rest. So I finished it off with this little peaked top because I just felt like it did look a bit unfinished. So how I've done this is ever so simple. I just chain 2 and then I slip stitch into my first chain. I normally do a picot like this, but I will do 3 chain, but this I just wanted a small one. So now I have my 2 loops on hook. I just pull it through both, skip 1 and slip stitch, chain 2, slip stitch into my first chain, yarn over and pull through both, skip 1 and do a slip stitch. That makes this nice little peak. Didn't really want it to be a large one. Skip 1 and slip stitch. So I'm going to do that all the way around. Again, I'll pause it and I'll catch up with you when we get back to the start. Okay, so I've gone all the way around and I've got my last one to do, so I'm just going to slip stitch into that last stitch and I'm going to do 1 chain, pull it very low, when I call that cinching it down, leave a nice big tail, and I'm going to pull that out, and I want to pull this down so it looks identical. I'm going to sew it in, but I want to pop it in there for now, and this is how it looks. It looks like a little fish, but you've got your little tiny peaks as well as the granny stitch. So Now I'm going to make the tie. Just a little word, if you want to make the set, then I will put a link at the end. When the videos pop in at the end, there'll be a link to this, and there'll be one in the description box, as well as the preemie beanie that I've made. Okay, so to do that tie, this was a chain of 50, and I feel like it is a little bit short. So you can always maybe just do 55. But we're going to do them not loose, but not ridiculously tight either. Just normal, just a chain. I'm going to do 55 because I'm going to make the other tie bigger. I'm going to make another one. I've just lost count. So I'm going to pause it then, and I will catch up with you once I've done my 55 chain. Okay, so now I'm just going to cut my yarn with a nice long tail and pull that through, and I'm going to pull it very, very tight. The other end, I'm going to pull it very tight, and then I'm just going to make sure that's as tight as it can be, and then I'm just going to snip it off. Now, if you're worried about these coming loose ever, then if you've got the same yarn, you can just make new ones. So before I put this in, I've left that long tail specifically for a reason. I'll show you that in a moment. We're going to sew these ends in. So we're going to turn it inside out, and I've got my darning needles here. I'm going to use this one because it is kind of a small yarn, and now I didn't leave as big a tail as I normally would here because I was playing a little bit of yarn chicken with this as I've been making other things like hats and stuff like that. So with it pulled as tight as I need it to be, I'm going to make a loop into the last stitch. And what I want to do is, when that is very short, that loop, I'm going to go back on itself, make sure that I don't pull that out, and then just pull it tight. Now that is totally got a knot and not coming undone. All I need to do then is to push this. Actually, that's got a knot that side, so it's harder to get in, but just go back through this round of stitching. Maybe I should have used the even thinner needle, but if I had, I would never have threaded it on camera. I do have a problem when it comes to threading them on camera. They don't like me to thread them. They like to watch me struggle. So that's it, it's never coming out. Just snip it off, pull it to one side, and the other one is the very last one. The good thing about these, unless you want to make one that's stripy and change colour, then you have very few ends to sew in. Okay, so now I'm going to attach this one, and as I said before, this one needs to kind of aim downwards. So that's what we want to do. You want to bury this tail in our stitching. We just go down through here, pull it down, so now it's exactly the same as the others, and we can start trying to find a nice row of stitches to bury it in. I'm going to go down a little bit more until I get to this row here, and then I can go along that row of stitching nice and easy. I found it easier to bury it in a row of consistent stitches. Okay, so now that's in that way, I'm going to go back the other way. I'm going to, you see this stitch here, I'm going to break into that stitch so it doesn't pull back through on itself. And you can go back and forth a couple of times if you want, but I think that's enough. And I'm just going to cut that off. And put it in the right way. There we are. So we've kind of got our mitten. Now I'm going to thread, this is why I left a long tail. I'm going to thread this onto my darning needle because it's easier than trying to poke it through. Now it does look nicer if you use a ribbon, but if you do use a ribbon, then you will need to maybe wash it at some, like the mittens, at sometimes you have to take it out. So I'm going to find my center, and I'm going to go into the hole to this side of it, so it's my left as I'm looking at it. And I'm going to weave this in and out and pull it through. I'm going to leave a bit of a tail there, maybe a little bit less, and that one's a little fatter because it's our first one. Going to get all the way to the other side, and then I'm going to come out just to the other side of that post. Okay, so now I want to pull this as tight as it can be, and I'm just going to cut it off. I've never had one of these come undone, but you never know, that there could be an occasion when that happens. So I want my tail to be equal both sides, and now all I need to do is give it a little tie up into a bow. So that's a much better length of the tie than the other one. So I'm going to pull this one out and redo it. So it's not a lot of difference, but it's just that little bit extra. So there we go. One little pair of granny top baby mittens. Okay, thank you for watching. I'll see you guys on the next one. As I said before, if you haven't already, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell.